Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the ImPerfect Podcast. I'm Kathy.
And I'm Kennedy. Join us on this week's episode as we discuss intriguing topics and people of interest that will inspire us to explore all of the unique pieces of ourselves.
We are all imperfectly perfect.
We're glad you're here. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the ImPerfect Podcast. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the ripple effect before. Mom and I were even talking beforehand. Some call it the butterfly effect, I think. But in case you don't know what the ripple effect is specifically, it is defined by NYU.edu as a gradually spreading influence or series of consequences caused by a single action or event. So as a more visual representation, as you'd expect, it's like when you drop a stone in a body of water and you know how it does this like ripple out effect into what appears like circles or like the ripples. So this is where the term of this theory comes from. And so when you drop a stone in the body of water, the thought behind it is that this small action has a larger impact than what initially you had done. So it ripples the water, it moves the leaf or debris in the water, and maybe there's some aquatic life that will feel it as well.
Yeah. When someone mentions or questions how much impact their actions actually have on other people, we tend to think of the ripple effect theory. But according to Forbes, some people often question their impacts because we can't see them. So many of us are left asking, do our actions really have any impact, or do the effects actually exist?
So then you wonder what your actual impacts are and what kind of impacts your actions have on other people. So according to Tim Elmore, we all have more impacts than we realize. And he even says that sociologists tell us that the most introverted of people will influence even 10,000 others in an average lifetime. So then it becomes this question of like, okay, how many people am I actually influencing without even realizing?
10,000 is pretty impressive, though, I would have.
Well, and that's why they also highlighted the introverted people, right? Because you expect introverted people to not interact with other people as much as the average person, I guess you could say, but it really puts into perspective that, yeah, there's a great impact.
Yeah. And so it I guess really, for me, it makes me think how many people that I've affected in life that I didn't even know, positively or negatively, even, because I guess we have to look at it from both sides.
Yeah, and it just suggests that every person you come in contact with, even it doesn't even have to be physically in contact either. We have technology now, so you can have impacts from a distance as well. It can be from every interaction you have. So just a simple act of holding the door for someone or saying thank you can make an impact.
Yeah. A lot of times I think we feel we're not noticed, in terms of just even individually, but also on the podcast. Kennedy and I discuss that quite often, are we having an impact? And just, it seems like when we sort of get down on ourselves about it, like, are we wasting our time? Are we actually giving, good content, or are people listening? Are they getting something from the show? Then often we will have people reach out to us and, say, I really like that one, or I learned something, or, this sort of thing. So, that's encouraging, whether it's on a personal level, if someone takes the time to tell you, you really made a difference in my life, or, thanks for bringing over supper, or calling me to see how I was doing, that sort of thing. Yeah, we can really affect other people in our lives.
So with that being said, on the flip side of things, not everyone's intentions are positive either, as that's not a big shocker. So some impacts and interactions with others in the world can have a positive or negative impact. It all just depends.
Yeah. And as you were just saying that, I'm still thinking of the last thought about the
Are you
last,
listening to me?
last to the party. Um, no, but in regards to what you said, it's not always a negative. So just, I, I guess we tend to take a lot of things personally when they're not meant even as personal. And in regard to, likes or comments back, or people private messaging us about things that we have said or done on the podcast that have affected them positively or helped them to make a change in their lives. Also, there's times when, and Kennedy and I have discussed this as well, just because people are watching it and consuming it and not necessarily reaching out or given the thumbs up button or whatever. I think of how many times that I watch stuff on YouTube or videos, or you get a message from somebody or what have you, and it doesn't mean that you didn't appreciate it. It doesn't mean that you didn't listen to it or get something out of it. Like all the time, YouTube, how many times do you actually give the thumbs up, right?
Right.
I know personally, I don't tend to do that. So that doesn't mean that the last, 5 or 10 things that I watched that I didn't give a thumbs up didn't mean that I didn't get anything out of it. So I guess I should be maybe a little more conscious in doing that, because just as we are looking for positive feedback, I think other people must be as well.
Yeah, it's in some ways kind of hypocritical of us to look at it from you feel like sometimes we do have these discussions that we feel like maybe we're not seen, and we do get comments from people and things, but we're wondering, how can we engage more and how can we get a better outreach and whatever. And it's like Mom said, it's sometimes people just don't interact with posts either because and for us to expect others to do that, but meanwhile, I really liked a YouTube video, but I didn't like it. So did it mean I didn't appreciate it? Well, no, it just means that I didn't put in the effort of hitting that like button. And so it's very true. We don't know really what the full impact is of something because there's no way to measure that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is the exact definition and meaning of impact? Well, there's two different meanings of it. So the first is to come into forcible contact with another object. So crash into, smash into, collide with, hit, ram, those sorts of words. And the one we're more specifically speaking of is have a strong effect on someone or something. So to affect, influence, have an effect on, make an impression on, modify, transform, shape. So, and if you haven't figured it out by now, these impacts can be with any person. So, like we were saying, a stranger or someone that you know, and even places. Like I think of how you interact with things in your environment, and that can have an impact as well.
Mm-hmm. We're often quite self-centered in our society, and we don't even think about how our actions can have an impact on the others around us, like we just discussed about the whole YouTube thing.
Right.
But although we should be always most concerned about ourselves, it doesn't mean that we should disregard others either. I don't think that really came out right, but of course we're our own first priority. But yeah, we all play this game together, so we have to be watching out for each other, and we never know the impact that we can have on others. We'll
Yeah.
never know when things can potentially come back around to us. I know that I've experienced kindnesses done to me, and also I've done kindnesses to others. So is it always I do it for Kennedy and then Kennedy does it for me? No, it's kind of strange how the whole thing actually works out in the end, because
Mm.
often these are completely unrelated people, but it's like we're all meshed together in some sort of a net.
It's true. And I've heard of, I've seen it on Facebook before. I think it's the story about how it goes something along the lines of that this guy's walking in to be interviewed at a certain place. And um, basically he was walking in and he didn't hold the door for the person behind him, and the person behind him that was just like, what the heck? Why didn't you hold the door for me? It's just something you do to be courteous. And then the guy gets upstairs and come to find out the guy he didn't hold the door for was the guy that was interviewing him. So, and I've seen that, I think it was on Facebook, but it's very relevant and true in explaining this dynamic of we really don't know how things are going to wrap back around to us in the end, and how every action we have has an impact in the end.
Right. And even if it doesn't turn around to benefit you somewhere down the road, there's something to be said for just doing the right thing and being kind for others. I think of my dad, even when I was a child, we'd be driving down the road and he'd pull a car over, and I think, what's going on? Like, we're not to where we're going yet. And he'd go out and pick up a bottle that he saw in the middle of the road, not because, I mean, he saw it, he wasn't going to hit it, wasn't any danger to him, but to remove it for the next person who might not have a chance to stop and, could hit their vehicle or what have you. Or, I can remember him doing that with sticks of wood that fell off of somebody's truck, and he'd go kick it over to the side. It wasn't his, so he didn't take it, but it just to prevent a hazard for someone else. And I guess we really should be looking out for each other.
Yeah, I thought of something else too while you were talking. I've seen another post somewhere about how it's so strange how we all do these things just because we do them to be kind to each other in society. And it's true. So as an example, you go to the grocery store. We're not being paid to put the grocery carts back in the trolley, but we do it for each other and to make the
Some
next
people don't
guys.
do it for each other.
Well, and that's what I mean. There's some people who have bad intentions in life, but I'm just like, the majority of people put the carts back. It's just, maybe it's just an action that's thoughtless and people just do it to do it. But the end game is that it makes somebody else's a job easier, or somebody else's car doesn't get hit. So it's kind of this, you give a little, you get a little kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
And
what's that?
I was going to say, we had another thing here from Forbes. They actually argue that it's a huge sham to think that our impacts on others is largely unconscious. So I guess by that they would be indicating that they think that we're doing it for a gain. Is that my understanding correct? Or do you feel the same way from
I
what they're saying there?
I get from what they're saying that it's more of a, it's not it's funny to think that we wouldn't be doing things consciously to have an impact. Like we say thank you to have an impact. We open the door for people to have an impact. We don't do these things unconsciously, but maybe in some situations they can lead to just unconscious, like I said with the cart. You just put the cart in the trolley because you do it. Yeah, so revisiting what we said earlier about being self-centered, we often disregard how our simple comments on social media could negatively impact someone for minutes, hours, days, or even weeks. And on the flip side, the positive impacts it has on when someone likes or shares or comments, like we were talking about with our podcast, like it means a lot when someone even just comments on our YouTube videos, for example, and they say, really got a lot out of this one, or sometimes we'll get a private message. Like it means more than maybe we even put off to them.
And I guess in this regard as well, we have to look at the other side of the coin, things that aren't intentional and that are done impulsively can also have impact on others, obviously. And often we don't think of the repercussions. The prime example there is drinking and driving, right? You choose to do that, you could be, affecting not only your own life, but everyone else down the line, in potential tragedy that could happen there. And there's so many other examples of that, I just didn't think about it, or I didn't think of the impact, or, you're at Value Village and you're grabbing the last whatever that's on sale. And, and meanwhile, or the grocery store and you grab the last bag of potatoes or whatever. Well, hey, guess what that means for the next person, right?
Right.
And,
Exactly.
I think we saw a lot of that in the whole panic buying thing of the pandemic and toilet paper. Some of that was just a little bit too unnecessary and extreme,
Some
right?
people had too much toilet paper and some didn't have any. So obviously an impact there. But many of us as a society and even individuals have become convinced that we have no power in shaping the world that is around us, and just our small, simple actions, even let alone large ones. So you ever hear of global warming? Like, it didn't take one person, like all it takes is one person to go, oh, it's just one bag of chips that I'm going to throw to the wind.
Yeah.
And one becomes two, and two becomes 20, and 20 becomes 1,000. And then suddenly you have global warming. It
And
just
not,
takes a select few to decide, oh, it's no big deal.
yeah, and not only on the global warming impact, I just think of some of the places I've traveled, and it's a societal norm to just throw your garbage on the side of the road. But after a while, when people start to do that, then it does affect other people, but also not in just the let's throw my chip bag on the ground, but mentally, now the place that you're living in doesn't look nice anymore. So that affects you in a different sort of way. And then
Right.
it can affect the children that are growing up seeing these behaviors, and
Just the
it
chain
becomes
reaction, right?
generational. Yeah. Yeah. So we'd be quite naive to believe that our small actions have no impact at all, because they most certainly do.
Yeah. So when we do come to the realization that we have more impact than meets the eye, then we get to make a choice each day to either have a positive or a negative impact. And again, we not only impact others and things around us, but also our own lives with our own daily actions. So, have you ever heard of someone listening of or listing off all of the terrible things that happened to them today? And it all started because I spilt coffee all over my shirt.
Mm.
Well, they chose to have a terrible rest of their day because it was a belief that today was going to be a terrible day just because of the coffee. And then it became a reality for them. And it's the same as Mondays are the worst. Well,
Yeah.
Saturdays can be the
Well,
worst too. But what is it about Mondays that people have this mindset that Mondays suck? Like, that's just a mindset and a choice that you're making.
yeah. So I guess maybe people want to know how they can create a lasting impact. And that would depend on what you see or define as a lasting impact. In some scenarios, people are so impactful by their small actions and interactions that that's what they're known for. And I think of, in this example, my grandmother, she didn't have much, but she always did what she could do for other people. And often it is, you hear that cheesy cliche of it's the little things.
Well, it's
And
true.
it really is. I think back to times in my life and the things that stand out, the kindnesses that people had done for me. And it's not a actually quite rarely it's the big thing, right? It's the little thing, it's the little card, it's the call, it's the casserole that somebody dropped off, or just even the simple acknowledgement. Because
Hmm.
as we've discussed before, people don't know how to handle situations, so they think that they'll just run off and hide, or let's pretend it didn't even happen, which is not always the best approach. And I just think of when people have been kind for me, and it quite often is the littler things.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point as well, you don't realize in your life how much the little things matter until it's set in front of you because, you expected someone to be there for you in a time of need and they're not there.
Mhm.
That sticks out like a sore thumb, right? So it's all these there's certain people that I can think of a few people that are even within my family and people that I chat to regularly that they're not the type of person to live a big, extravagant life where they have to make massive impacts. For them, their massive impacts are the small little things that they do for people and in their community. And that is what we mean, like, by what people are known for, because I can think of these people and know what kind of a character they are just by these little things that they do. And they don't, not to be saying it like this, but they don't do a whole lot. You know what I mean? But it makes a great impact because I know what type of a person they are and they do these little things and they mean a lot.
I guess the bottom line is if it comes from the heart, right?
Right.
Just because you don't have the resources or the means, like we can all do something. And
Hmm.
if you go off, trying to be bigger or more expensive or whatever than your capacity is, then it's not going to be from the heart, but the little card or the call or the,
Right.
whatever it is, pancakes. I don't know where that came from, but anyway,
Mom
someone
likes
makes you,
pancakes. Noted.
if someone makes you pancakes, then that's special.
It is. But it's kind of funny though. If you search online, how do I make an impact? One of the first things that comes up is an article by Tony Robbins, How to Make a Positive Impact. And he goes on to explain, he talks about the ripple effect a little bit and whatnot, but he basically explains what goes around comes around. So we should be more focused on just even being thankful to have the opportunity to live and give back to others and ourselves. And I read the article and he goes on to give several examples. And to me, they're quite stereotypical examples of donate supplies, volunteer your time, give what you can, those sorts of answers. And although those are all very important and needed, selfless impacts, like we were just discussing, I feel like our impacts can actually be so much more on a smaller scale. Like we don't have to make those big moves to have an impact like stereotypical thought processes would be.
Right. And yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking of all the little things that do make an impact. And this is a silly example, but for example, um, the small act of brushing your teeth every day, it
Mm,
doesn't seem like a big deal um, on a day-to-day basis, but just think if you stop brushing your teeth,
right.
you'd eventually end up where you'd need to make an extreme decision about having your teeth pulled or not. Um, your coworkers probably won't want to, hang out
Come
with
within 10
you.
feet of
Or,
you. Yeah.
maybe your spouse is kind of grossed out by that. So it's going to have impacts in your life. And again, that's kind of a little bit of a silly example, but that's one of your everyday choices that you kind of hopefully do without thinking too much about. But that driving to work and how we're not supposed to be on our phones, you make that 1 second decision and man, that can
That can change
change
everything.
everything's lives. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we always live with the intention of living and leaving a positive impact on people? It just, I mean, we all make choices every day, but it just makes you sit back. And I mean, we're not perfect ever. And we sometimes, like we said, can't measure what our impacts are. So my little, you know, message to so and so, but not to so and so could mean something to, what am I trying to say? Um,
Yeah,
I
well,
could
sure.
message someone and not the other, and that could be hurtful to the other person.
Right.
Like we don't, but it wasn't meant with malintent. It was just, hey, I just said hi to this person and not that one. So, we should just try to have the intention of living with a positive impact. And I think the majority of us do. But it's just interesting to look at these different perspectives and to really think about, like you said, the small things that really do make an impact that we don't think about, like brushing our teeth every day. That's
Well,
going
and
to
even
impact us.
if you look at it too, stuff like even the energy you bring
Hmm.
into a situation, whether it's your work environment, your home environment, we've all been at the party, someone walks in and it changes kind of the whole mood, or you know at the end of the workday, someone comes through the door and, within, I forget what the technical measurement of time is, but they say within, I don't know, the first 2 minutes of the person arriving in the door, that sets the tone for the rest of the evening. So you
Interesting.
can give and have impact in the same way, just with your energy. If you're positive energy, if you're going to be, mopey merry or what have you. So everything we do affects other people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just as a last thought, your impact, I guess, is ultimately your legacy as well. You have the ability to become responsible for your actions and be intentional about your path and your impact and the impact you will have on others around you. So, choose your path and your impacts wisely, so to speak.
Yeah, every action has a reaction. So anything you put forth in life, you have the choice to be positive or negative about it, like we were saying. And if you consider how everything you do impacts and affects everyone out, it's almost like a spider's web, right? So
Mm,
look at voting. If you choose not to vote, that's your own choice, but it really doesn't give you the opportunity to have a voice in whoever ends up getting elected, right? Because you didn't really
right.
contribute on that one. And you had the option to vote and have a say, which would be making an impact or, contributing to that perhaps. And if you choose not to, then you're withdrawing your rights to even almost comment on it.
Hmm. Yeah, and on that note too, your one vote can totally change the results too.
Well, I guess that's up for debate.
But
Technically, I guess if it was, in case of a hung jury type of situation.
right. No,
Yeah,
exactly. So that little, like mom said, in a jury, yes or no. Well, that totally changes things.
yeah, yeah,
So, with all that being said, you have the ability to live your life with intention and make great impacts and strides in your own life and others. And there's also that popular saying, like I was saying earlier, you get what you give. So, what comes around goes around, or whatever that expression is, karma, some people call it. So, I think just to have the intention of putting out positivity is, I mean, isn't that what we all want? I say that, but like, I don't think that's everyone out there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And once you've acknowledged that you do have an impact on other people, you get to choose what type of an influence you want to be and the type of impact you want to have on other people.
Right. And some people, like I was starting to say, have bad intentions. And unfortunately, we can't control these people. So, how you impact them and guard yourself is how you get to choose the impact in that situation. And we actually discussed this a little bit previously in Don't Be a Bully. So, just let their negativity roll off of you and choose not to let them drag you down.
Yeah. In closing today, as famously said by Frank Turner, no one gets remembered for the things that they didn't do. So why not do something or anything and make an impact for someone else?
Like brush your teeth. Thank you for tuning in again, guys. We will see you next Monday.
Bye.
If you or someone you know has a unique story to tell, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at theimperfectpodcast@outlook.com.
For more information and how to connect with us on social media, you can visit us at our website, theimperfectpodcast.ca.
And from whichever platform you are listening to this episode, be sure to like, share, and leave us a review. We would really appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode.
We look forward to hearing your feedback and seeing you all find that extra joy and embrace your own imperfect.
See you next week.